The governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand and knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull.
The sun was at its peak when they pushed Jesus to the ground and lined his shoulders up with the heavy crossbeam. He groaned in agony as they forced his torn flesh against the rough wood. 2 soldiers leaned over him. Each one grabbed his arms and stretched it out over the length of the beam. A 3rd soldier positioned the spike and raised the hammer.
I closed my eyes and heard the sharp clang as metal struck metal. No!
The hammer descended again, and an involuntary cry of pain escaped his lips.
Yeshua! Yeshua! Look, that woman is offering him wine mixed with myrrh.
But he shook his head and turned his face away.
Oh, please, my Lord, drink it. It'll lessen the pain.
But he refused to drink it. They crossed his feet, one over the other, and he screamed in pain as they drove a longer, thicker spike through the arch of his feet, crushing bone and muscle until the spike was anchored deep in the wood of the upright post.
Oh, I'm going to be sick.
I wanted to run. How could we stand here and watch him suffer such brutality? Mary was doubled over, as if she too felt the agony of his torment. The other 2 watched with me in disbelief as they raised the cross and guided it into the deep groove in the ground. It settled into the hole with a deep thud and stood upright. Unable to support his weight, the Lord's knees buckled and his body slid down the cross until his arms could stretch no further.
His eyes flew open in surprise. He opened his mouth to cry out, but couldn't.
He can't breathe. He's suffocating.
Use your legs, Jesus. Push yourself up with your legs.
Yes, breathe. Please, Yeshua, breathe. Breathe.
Slowly, he arched his back and took a shallow breath. Then, despite the excruciating pain, he found the strength and courage to push against that huge spike and straighten his legs. Only then could his lungs expand, and he took in great convulsive gulps of air until his body was satisfied. When his legs could no longer hold him and his knees buckled beneath him, he began the process all over again, arching his back, straightening his legs, gasping for air. How long could this go on?
I can't bear to watch this.
John, something's happening.
I took my eyes from the figure on the cross and looked about. Dark storm clouds had turned the day to night. But more than that, it was as if God had reached out his hand and covered the sun. The chief priests and elders, who had been hurling insults and taunting Jesus, looked around anxiously and began to leave the hill. Jesus saw them moving away, and he lifted his head slightly and said,
"Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do."
A great bolt of lightning split the darkness and thundered about us. The wind began to howl, and I wanted to howl with it. Forgive them? Oh, if I could, I'd call down the lightning and wipe them off the face of the earth.
It's getting darker.
It's so black.
Like the darkest night.
I'm afraid.
I'm terrified.
I'm numb.
They stood there and clung to each other. They wept. Great wrenching sobs that tore their throats emerged with thunder.
Why?
Why does he have to suffer so?
He's my healer.
He's my teacher.
He's my son.
I heard the anguish in their words. I recognized the pain, the need for answers, but I had nothing to offer them. No comfort, no words to console. Their pain was my pain. My dearest friend hung before me, dying on a Roman cross. How had it come to this? This vile humiliation? It was reserved for the worst of criminals. But Jesus had done nothing to deserve such an end. What kind of evil had conspired to condemn this good man to such a cruel form of execution?
Mary, I can't bear the thought of never seeing him again.
Never sitting at his feet.
Never holding him again.
Jesus saw his mother weeping and called out to me,
John, take care of my mother.
I went to her and put my arms around her.
Mother, John is now your son.
As she sobbed into my shoulder, it began to rain. The blood that had dried in the streaks on his face and body began to soften and run again. It dripped from the palms of his hand, washed over his body, and now down the cross, turning from red to pink until it ran clear. He arched his back. His face grimaced in pain as he struggled to straighten his legs.
He's getting weaker.
With enormous effort, he raised his head and he looked into the clouds. There was a look of sheer terror on his face. He was alone in his agony.
My God, why have you forsaken me?
Once again, his legs collapsed, and once again, he found the strength to straighten himself. With an indescribable effort, he sucked air into his lungs, and I watched in amazement as he lifted his face to the heaven, and he cried in a loud voice,
It is finished!
It was a cry of triumph, the cry of a warrior shouting, "Victory! Victory!" And just when I thought that victory might lift him from the cross, he was stretched out one last time. His head fell forward, and his breath was gone.
Lord! My Lord!
No! Oh, God, you said I was blessed among women. Where is the blessing in this? This is a sword that pierces my heart, just as the angel said it would.
I don't know how long we stood there, weeping and shivering. Our wet clothes were as heavy as our hearts. Mary Magdalene was the first to break the silence.
What's gonna happen to us now?
I had no answers.
Will they come after us? After his followers?
His followers? Do you see any followers? I am one of 12. Do you see the others? If only Peter had come. I begged him to come.
You know why I couldn't come? How could I face him after what I did? You were there. You heard what I said.
Peter, we all abandoned him. We swore we would never, but we did. We all ran. We left him alone to face his accusers.
But you went back. Of the 12, only you had the courage to stay close.
Not that close, Peter. From a distance. I watched from a distance. I never spoke up for him.
But you didn't deny him. I don't know what you're talking about, I told the servant girl. I don't know any Jesus of Nazareth. Did you suspect there was such weakness in me, John? In this rock, I'm a coward, a spineless coward. Even in the face of the obvious, when they heard my accent, I lied to them. I swear to you, I yelled, I never met the man. And just as the rooster crowed, I saw Jesus. They were leading him away, and he looked right at me.
He heard what you said?
Yes. Oh, John, the look on his face. He should have despised me, but instead his eyes were full of love and forgiveness. But how can I forgive myself? How can I live with this guilt? It's almost more than I can bear.
What will you do now?
I wish I knew. Find Andrew, go back to fishing? I don't know.
We've lost our purpose, haven't we? All our dreams for the future, gone. You know, for a while there, I really thought he was the Messiah.
And now you think he's not? Stop wallowing in self-pity. You're not thinking straight. You walked with him for 3 years. Did you not see what I saw? Did you not hear what I heard? Think!
Mary, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about my brother who stepped out of his grave clothes, living and breathing. I'm talking about the blind who see,
The deaf who hear, the lame who walk.
I'm talking about Simon the leper, whose skin is clear and pink like a newborn child's.
And a small boy's lunch that fed 5,000, and water turned into wine.
The wind and the waves that became still at the sound of his voice.
I'm talking about
Walking on water!
Yes! And what about his words? He never intended to leave us wondering. We shouldn't be surprised by all of this. I can still hear him speaking. His voice is burned in my memory.
I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. But I lay it down of my own accord. No one takes it from me. I have authority to lay it down and to take it up again.
I lay it down of my own accord.
Greater love has no one but this, that he lay down his life for his friends.
He did it for us.
In a little while you will see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me.
Do you hear that?
You will grieve, but your grief will turn to joy.
Listen.
For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth.
What are you saying?
I'm not saying anything. These are the words of the Lord.
The Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and the teachers of the law. They will condemn him to death and will hand him over to the Gentiles, who will mock him and spit on him, flog him and kill him. 3 days later he will rise.
He said he was the resurrection and the life. The resurrection, John. Don't you see?
All I see is the broken body of my friend hanging on a Roman cross, dead. It's over. I'm going home.
John!
Mary, the day is almost over. It's the Sabbath. We have to go.
No, we can't leave him here like that.
It's all right. Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus will take him down. They're going to put him in Joseph's tomb.
Come, Mary. We'll go to him when the Sabbath is done.
Yes, we'll bring spices to anoint his body.
So we left that place of the skull, that corner of hell, and returned to our homes, miserable in our grief, but hanging on to that one glimmer of hope.
You will grieve, but your grief will turn to joy.